Well, hi, everybody, and welcome back. This is Glenn the Geek, founder of the Horse Radio Network and host of Horses in the Morning, the longest running daily horse podcast in the world. We're the only daily horse podcast in the world, but we've also been around for 15 years, 3,600 episodes. And welcome to the WESA Retail Roundup. The Retail Roundup is your go-to virtual hub for all things retail, panel discussions, webinars, and you know what? We want to hear from you during this. I know we'll have a bunch of people here watching live. You can comment in the comments section and ask questions of our guests as well. We host a virtual event or share educational content every Monday via the Retail Roundup Facebook group. And we're back this year. This is the first Retail Roundup we're doing live like this on a Monday after the event. Everybody just got home from Dallas, and I know these two did too, so we'll talk about that a little bit. But today's session, we bring together entrepreneurial journey of Natalie and Jessica, founders of Badcowgirl. And, you know, from launching a startup in Scotland to navigating the global equestrian industry, these trailblazers will share their experiences, lessons learned, and strategies for growth. Whether you're looking to expand your customer base, maximize trade show opportunities, or refine your brand storytelling, this session will leave you inspired and equipped with actionable takeaways. No pressure, ladies, but actionable takeaways. All right.
Right.
All right. So, Jess, let's start with you. We have Jess and Natalie. Jess is on my bottom there. Thank you. On my bottom, the screen. Natalie's on the top. So, what is your company? What do you do? What is Bad Cowgirl?
So we're based in Edinburgh. We're in Scotland. Full disclosure, I'm American. Don't
Couldn't
hold that
tell at
against
all.
me. Right, right. And I moved over here about almost 6 years ago now. And I'm obviously a rider, and there was a real hole in the market for Western gear, Western apparel. It's very limited over here. It's obviously not part of the culture the way it is in parts of America that I've experienced previously. And I really wanted to get my hands on some things, and it was so hard to get anything. You'd either have to bring it over, or work with the limited quantities that were available to you. So I said to my good friend who had experience in the wholesale business, Natalie, this is what I want to do. And I want to start with horse rugs. And it kind of blew from there, from horse rugs to apparel, hats, and kind of seeing what the market was asking for besides myself. Like, what did people want? And that's where it started.
So you are on the retail side then there.
Correct. We are on the
Okay.
retail side. Yes.
Gotcha. So how long ago did this start, Natalie? Did you start up the company?
So we started chatting about this last year. So it would have been January, February, and we found ourselves in Germany at a very, very large trade show, wandering around going, okay, there's definitely a gap here. There's definitely something missing. And it just sort of snowballed very, very quickly from there.
And your first WESA, Jess, was in August, right? So
It
you
was.
you made your trip
Yes.
over in the 100 degrees to go to WESA in August?
Oh, yeah, it was hot, and it was worth it in more ways than one. It was wonderful. But yeah, that was our first trip over there. And we were invited over by WESA, and we were so grateful because we definitely got a crash course in all things Western and all things trade and manufacturing and retail. And it's every time we go, we learn so much more.
So your avenues, Natalie, are you online, brick and mortar store, mobile to shows? How are you selling product?
So at the minute, we've been trialing doing sort of large scale B2C shows. So we were invited to a large show at the end of last year, and we thought, let's try this. Let's see what happens, how the British consumer interacts. And there's no better way to get immediate feedback than an exhibition, whether it's positive or negative. I think particularly British consumers will be quite brutally honest with you. We have our website launching in the next couple of weeks, and we've got a large scale event program happening over the next sort of 12 to 16 weeks. I think we're now looking at maybe having about 16 events lined up before we head back to WESA again. So yeah, currently operating a lot of events, and then with an online presence being sort of built up as we figure out what the British consumer actually wants.
Are you?
Yeah, that's
So, Jess, are your
yeah.
SKUs leaning toward tech, clothing?
Right now, it's leading toward clothing. We don't really deal with any tack. There's a
Okay.
lovely woman here that kind of deals with that already in the Western space. So ours, it's definitely more geared toward the rider. And we started the company with that kind of in mind, that we wanted all of our clothing, all of our apparel to be something that a rider could wear, not just necessarily fashion. So you could get on your horse, ride it to the pub, as we say, go just have yourself a pint, and then get back on your horse and ride home. So we really pride ourselves that our gear is built for that.
Is Western fashion popular over there? I mean, what has there been a Yellowstone effect in Scotland too?
Oh, yes. I mean, we were asked, I think probably for about 16 hours nonstop over 2 days about Yellowstone, and people were coming up to us for everything. And I'm like, okay, this is a big deal here. And you've had Yellowstone, people like Beyonce. It's definitely diffused into mainstream British culture. But Americana has always been ingrained in British culture. And this has definitely amplified over the last sort of 6 months.
So you haven't had to overcome the I don't know what this is foreign, this is weird. You really haven't had to overcome that then.
No, no,
No.
I think probably what more we've had to overcome, and I think I'll take this as an American, is kind of what the British think a Western writer culture style is. It's still very based on what is in the media. Whereas, when we're in Dallas, it's a lifestyle. It's not just fashion. Yes, there's a whole fashion element to it, but it is a lifestyle. It's a way of living. And I think so when we do have people come up and talk about Yellowstone, talk about, I mean, there's always the Clint Eastwood, John Wayne angle as well. That's kind of ingrained into what people think Western is. And so we have to cater not only to that kind of sensibility, but also, when we do go to shows like WESA, we see what's coming up in the market, what's next, or what's hot right now. And we definitely want to infuse that over here. So one, that we're not behind, but two, that we're also offering our clientele what's going on in the world, kind of bringing that forward. And so I think that's really important for us. It's one of the biggest gains I know personally as a company we've gotten from going to WESA.
So Natalie, what product lines are they leaning towards?
We were asked about everything. Hats, people just went crazy for hats.
That's true in America too, since
Yes.
the Yellowstone effect. Yeah.
But it's also here, it's that price point. It's a little bit more sensitive to pricing than buying a $2,000 hat. That's such a limited market for us. And in the UK, there's a very, very fine line between a costume and something British people would wear. So you have to look, when we go to things like WESA, we're looking quite carefully at what would play in Dallas. You wouldn't have someone wear in London. It's two very, very different demographics and sensibilities and practicalities. But definitely people went crazy for hats. Shirts were really requested for us. Wild rags were continuously requested. Probably the three biggest were those.
Mostly female?
95%.
Mostly, yeah.
Well, that's true.
But
that's true.
I think that's the horse world over here.
Yeah.
I think that's the horse world over here, though. It is almost every show we go to is 95% female. The trainers will be all male,
Right.
but the clientele is all female.
Right.
Which is interesting still. I think Nat put it really, really succinctly, is that there is a fine line between what the market will hold here. Like, you have, like, for example, I had a long call the other day with someone, and they really wanted us to bring over the level of, Stetson style hats. They want beaver, and the price point with which they were willing to pay, we knew far and well that it wasn't something that was even in the realm of what a Stetson would cost at that level. So I think, being very careful in how we enter product into the market is something we're very conscious of, to get people kind of warmed up. This is what a hat costs. Okay, we want to level it up. Well, then that's going to cost this. So testing the waters is very important, of what the market will hold and what our clientele will pay. So that's definitely been something that the last 6 months we've been learning a lot from.
And there is that is available, right? I mean, yeah, obviously you have the tourist cheap stuff. You know,
Mm.
let's talk about hats. You have the touristy cheap stuff, but then you
Yeah.
do have that middle there, and then the higher end. And you know, I think it's true of even Americans. You know, where they fall. How much is somebody willing to pay for a hat? Not
Yeah.
everybody. I'm not willing to pay $2,000 for a hat, right?
Right.
So I fall in that middle too. You know, I'm not going to buy the cheap tourist hat, but
No.
I'm also not going to, you know, spend too. I think we all have our price point for everything that
Mhm.
everything, right? From a toaster to a cowboy hat or jeans.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very
So,
true. Very true.
are you finding mainstream retailers incorporating Western clothing over there?
I think,
Yes,
yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
How
I've
hard is
literally
that to compete against then?
um I've literally been spammed this morning with like big box retailers, but like very, very low price point selling Western themed t-shirts or something. There's not a lot of longevity in that product. It's very, very sort of mass marketed. The types of clients we were dealing with wanted something that's going to last. It's not going to last, 3 washes and it's disposable. It is more that investment piece. If you're buying a riding shirt, you want that to last. If you're buying things for children, you want that to last. So for us, seeing that diffusion with those big fast fashion manufacturers isn't a concern. It just proves to me that there is a demand out there for that kind of product.
Do you, Jess? How do you reach that person? How are you find? What is the most effective way you're finding to reach that particular discerning individual who's not, you know, who's not going to spend $20 for the hat at the box store?
Honestly, it's been word of mouth for us. I have to be really honest, as people see us at events and they say, "Have you seen?" And I will say, word of mouth in these towns, and we say Edinburgh is a village, everybody knows everybody, has been the greatest way for us to grow and for people to get behind our brand. They like what we do. We always put on a bit of flair, shall we say, when we have our exhibitions or our shows. We're really involved with our customers. We take the time with them. It's not, "Hey, do you want to buy this? Give us your cash, you're out." It's, "Tell us why you're buying this." And inevitably we hear stories about people's parents, their horses, their children. So they're building a relationship with us. And I think that's what people love about Bad Cowgirl. In today's market, everything is oversaturated. I don't care what line of business you're in, it's oversaturated. And with AI coming in, um, client relationships are the most important thing that discern one company from another. So do you believe, yeah, the product might be the same, do you know what I mean? But do you believe in the people putting it out there? Do you believe in their story? Do you believe in their mission? Do you want to do business with them? And I think that, again, across almost all platforms in any business, this is true. This is the new model we're working with. And so for Nat and I, that's very important that we reach our audience and we care about them and they come back. They come back and then they tell their friends and they want to put our clothes on their children or give it to their mom, give it to their sister for her birthday. It's a gift. It's not a throwaway. So I think our audience are our biggest fans and they're the ones growing it for us.
So, Natalie, do you see yourself opening a brick? You're starting the website here shortly, so
Mm.
you'll have online, right? And you're doing shows, so you're mobile. Do you see yourselves having a brick and mortar in Edinburgh at all?
Um, Unlikely. I would never look at doing a permanent brick and mortar. Jess and I have talked before about looking at pop-ups. Pop-ups is a really big thing here
Mm.
in certain cities, like in London or in Edinburgh, those big hubs. That I would look at. I probably wouldn't look at doing a bricks and mortar standalone store because the reach is sort of UK wide, that I think it would just constrain us a little bit too much. And retail rent in places like London and
bet.
Edinburgh is incredibly expensive.
Yeah.
They're not
I bet.
in those prime locations. It would be challenging for us to maintain the level.
So, do you see that do you think the website's going to be a majority of the business here going forward, or do you think shows will be?
I think it'll be a good blend, honestly. I think, like any show, you have the ability to do quick turnover, meet mass amounts of people. But it'll be interesting to see what the turnover is online, especially like after an event, if we sell out of something or as, the holidays come upon us, what's that turnover like? So I think for us, it's going to be a learning game a bit on that front.
Do you have lined up? I assume it's the same over the ocean as far as how you're going to process. Who are you using for your website?
We're through Shopify.
Yeah. Okay. There
Yeah.
you go. Yeah.
So
Right.
similar platform. Yep. Platforms that most online businesses use are very popular.
So how did attending WESA help?
I think we learned the first time we went, we probably learned more in the first hour than we had in 6 months. I'd never been to Texas before, so I was particularly excited. And immediately, even walking into the hotel, I went, okay, this is completely different. How people were dressed. It's having never been immersed in that industry before, you learn a lot very, very quickly. And I learned, I think for us, the relationships. I thought it was quite easy to develop relationships. People who were actually genuinely being cheerleaders for us, which I had never had at any trade show I'd ever been to. And I mean, I'm someone who goes to trade shows in my, I'll say, day job, 15 times a year. And brands actually being cheerleaders for us and advocating for us, introducing us to other contacts that we would never have met. That's something we could never, ever have got without attending in person.
I agree. I think that, some of those stores wouldn't even have talked to you probably had you not met them in person.
Nope.
It's just the way it is, right?
No.
Yeah. It's all about relationships. This whole industry, but you know what? And you guys have been in business too, obviously before this. It's always been that way. I mean, since I started in sales 40 years ago, it's always been relationships. Nothing's changed. The internet hasn't changed that.
No.
Yeah.
No. I think we've just forgotten it a bit.
But we're reminded every trade show we go to.
Yeah.
It is. And I think we've said to you previously, as soon as we attend, within the first morning, we go, we're coming back again, aren't we? Yeah. And we say, we're only going to go for a day and a half. We literally drove straight from WESA to the airport with our car laden down with things because we wanted to make the most of our time there.
Is it a challenge with the shipping? Even if you're ordering, you're ordering from wholesalers or manufacturers over here, and I mean, you're going to have added costs. I don't know what the dollar to, I don't know what the exchange rate is now. Whether we're doing better or worse, I'm not sure.
It's okay.
It's the VAT. It's the VAT that gets us.
We get
the tax.
We get different taxes and duties levied on us depending on what the product is. And if you need anything quick, it's a significant cost. It's been okay. It's just something else that we have to factor in to what we're doing. And we're paying import tax, and we'll pay another tax depending on what that item is, plus shipping. So we could be talking another 28-30% on top.
I assume, though, your competition's having to deal with the same thing, right?
Yeah, everyone, no matter where you're importing from, whether you're importing from China, the US, anywhere, it's going to be the same. It's just the UK government's restrictions, but it's okay. We can deal with it. And the suppliers have been great for us, and meeting them in person helped because they know us. They're happy to split it into smaller orders if we needed, or hold it for us a little bit longer. They've been very flexible.
It's harder, my wife just ordered a saddle at one of the tack shops here in town, and it's much easier to do that here. You're in a little bit different situation in that the one-off, somebody wants to custom order something, you really have to think about it because you do have the additional costs of one-offs, right?
Yeah. We have to plan way ahead. And also to keep our price point at a place that the customer still feels comfortable paying. We don't want to be one of these brands. There's one particular Western brand here in the UK, and it's made for the celebrities. And that's fine, but that's not all of us. Do you know what I mean? We still want everybody else to be able to buy Western gear, and be a part of that community. So we work really hard to keep our prices at a place we feel is reasonable.
So Natalie, what's been the biggest challenge you would say since you started?
Don't say me. Don't say me.
Besides Jessica, I think even it's working out what the UK customer wants. I think that is because you look at all these things, a lot of it just wouldn't work here. You've got so many different considerations. So I think that is sort of finding a consolidated package of items that would work for the UK customer, but that would also work in Europe, that would work, even Australia if you sold there. And for us, it's availability. I can't just walk into a store and buy a sample of a hat. I need to ship that in. So that's probably one of the harder things for us. We were talking about this earlier, Jessica and I, that if I'm looking at a new brand, I either need to buy one retail from the US or look at it when we are out there. That's the only option I have. And that's quite limiting sometimes.
Well, the other limiting factor, and Jess, I don't know if you know the percentage, but what percentage of riders in Scotland or even England are Western?
It's a small population, but growing very quickly. There's a company over here an organization called WESA, and I don't know what the actual statistic is, but their population community, I think, has tripled in the last year or two. And so it's definitely hitting over here. Now is the time. There's more places popping up teaching Western, trainers who were previously trained in horsemanship, who are going to the US and trying to expand their knowledge and bring it back over here. You see that more. I'm taking my children down to do roping down in England tomorrow, but that's very few and far between. We have to travel 5 hours to the nearest person who can rope. Yeah. So these are the type of things we are trying to bring over here. We're also hoping to bring over trainers who we've met in Dallas and beyond to kind of broaden that market for them as well, people we've met.
And the Western way of life and the Western riding has become more popular in Europe, Germany and Italy and Spain, obviously.
Germany's
all
huge.
Of those countries. Is that helping?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I think as more places kind of get on board, it gives permission for people to fully delve into the culture a bit more. We're still a species of well, if he's doing it over there, it makes it okay. And again, that's
Nobody
a difference.
wants to be the first one wearing the cowboy hat into the hotel.
Which is such a shame, because a man strutting into with a cowboy hat into a hotel, every woman's looking at him. Yeah, I think and that's something unique that Nat and I kind of took a risk on with this, in this investment, in this venture, is going, right, really no one else is doing it. Not really. Like I said, I think there's 2 stores that we know of. Correct me if I'm wrong, Nat. I think there's 2 other Western retailers in the UK, and that's about it. And I think one of the things that's cool about Badcowgirl is not only are we have some well-known brands within our own brand, but we really are trying to create our own brand where we employ and hire designers, mainly female, who designed our apparel for us, or who have their own brands and lines that we can kind of private label with them. So uplifting both at the same time. That's really important to us, that we're able to create a product that's quality that we would wear, but that also is supporting women who are making it back end.
Well, and I think that, private label for you guys is a perfect situation, especially with I love your brand name. So, I mean, that's perfect. What about, Jess, are you the one doing social media?
A little bit, yeah. We are in the process of hiring somebody to take that over, because full disclosure, way behind children.
I think Jess is breaking up a little for me. Is she breaking up a little for you, Natalie?
Yes, she is.
So, Jess, we lost you a little bit there. You were breaking up a little bit.
That's okay.
For us.
It's because the Matrix doesn't want me to tell the truth about my age, Glenn.
Has social media played a part for you guys? Let me reword the question.
Yeah, no, I think it really has. And I think that's a way to reach a market that might not know about us or isn't going to be able to come to an event. They can stay on top of kind of what we're doing and see as we start to launch products that are newer, what we have to offer, and they can ask questions, and we're pretty responsive on that. But I would like to kick up our social media into high gear. And so, like I said, we're in the midst of potentially hiring someone to handle that for us. So Mama
Instagram,
doesn't have to.
TikTok, Facebook, which one has?
Yeah, Insta's been our biggest one.
Yeah.
Ironically, though, in this country, Facebook's bigger for us, demographically speaking. We're not really on TikTok. Again, I'm going to be full disclosure here. Don't know how the heck to use it. Don't know. So hopefully we'll have someone much more educated in that department coming on.
We find, though, that with our listeners, Facebook's still the place where they hang out. Still
Yes.
for horse people. Ours is 95% women too that are in the 35 to 55 age range.
Yeah. Yep.
And that tends to be where they are. Instagram too, but less TikTok, I would say, as a whole. So yeah, I think that's pretty much the same. So how do you manage inventory? That's a tough one, but it's a question that we have to ask, right? Because we all deal with it.
I love a spreadsheet, so that's quite fortunate.
Laminated,
Does
a
that
laminated
come from your real
spreadsheet.
job? That day job you're talking
No,
about? No,
my real job is completely different.
This is just her neuroses, Glenn.
Yeah.
There's nothing to
So what we do, because we are bringing stuff in on import. So we had several 100 hats arrive the other day. And you'll know, having been in retail, Glenn, how glamorous that is when that arrives.
That's lovely. Yeah.
Climbing over boxes, opening everything, relabeling it that only you understand. So inventory, I'm keeping databases for, because we've been buying at the moment. We've been buying specifically for these high volume events we've got coming. We're just about to do a 20,000 B2C equestrian event.
So you're buying your SKUs deeper than you probably normally would.
Yes, and we're buying a slightly different range to try a couple of color things that we think might work for the UK, and a couple of sizing things that we think could work. But I'm managing on sort of custom-made databases.
Well, that's good. I mean, right? Because I think that Jess is a little bit more like me. We're the marketing people, and we don't want to worry
about the creatives, Glenn.
Yeah,
Glenn,
exactly.
We're the creatives.
That's why
how
my
you
wife
market
ran
that.
the books.
Yeah,
figures out.
I would not have any track of any of that.
Yes, Natalie had to nix me on buying a fiberglass donkey today to display as part of our display unit. So yes, she keeps me in check.
Couple questions before we wrap up here. What advice would you give a retailer launching their own brand, especially if they're overseas like you guys are?
Know your audience, obviously. And just because you think you know, be very open to not knowing, and take a risk on things. But when I say a risk, I'm not saying stupid risks, but try small batches of things. That way you don't feel like you're putting your business at risk, and allow people to want something and not have it available. Allow that to build. We always want what we can't have. So I think that's something that we've learned, has been tricky at times, but has paid off.
I guess the hardest thing too is people watch a show like Yellowstone and they like whatever, right? The cowboy hats, the boots, the belt buckles,
green leaves,
whatever it is,
all
right?
that.
And they see it and they think they want it until they get there to actually buy it, and then that's when they decide they don't want it, and that's a tough one to overcome too.
Yeah. We had this discussion literally yesterday. My husband was watching Yellowstone. He's like, I think I'd like a pair of cowboy boots. And he's an assistant principal at a school. I was like, no, you don't. I know that you don't want a pair of cowboy.
They're very pointy and you can kick well with them. So it might work there.
I was like, I know that you don't. But in his head, he genuinely believed that would be a fantastic investment for him. And I think that is something, and we heard so much with people coming up to us going, oh, I really want this just like Yellowstone. I'm like, do you?
Well, that's the
Yeah.
story, right? Everybody wants the story, Glenn. We all want to
Right.
be somebody. We all want to be
We want the
part of
fantasy.
something.
Yeah.
We do want the fantasy, but I think as humans, we also want to be part of something. We want to be part of a community. And that's right now, that is the community that's most popular, is to kind of get on that bandwagon. That's why fashion is what it is. We all kind of go toward that. But I think for Bad Cowgirl, we're in it for the long haul. And we want to make products that survive past Yellowstone for when it comes back around again in 20 years. And I think that's very important, though, to say that we all want to be part of something, and I think Bad Cowgirl is about story, right? So the story you want to tell yourself, we're here to support you in that journey if it's on that Western frontier.
How important then is it to have a well-known brand when you're first starting out that everybody over there recognizes immediately, or you can't compete with that anyway because everybody else is selling it. The box stores are selling it. And
Mm. Nat, do you want to take it? Do you want me to take it?
I think it's important to have something that's recognizable. And I think because we're starting off with a relatively niche industry, what our graphics and everything are incredibly recognizable. I think we, like most people starting out, don't have unlimited funds to get yourselves to that position. You can spend on marketing.
millions.
Millions, literally millions. And for us, it's about having recognizable graphics and branding within that community, to us being responsive and having products that people actually want, that are different, that look visibly different to other people, is probably more beneficial for us at this stage than, remortgaging both of our houses to spend on marketing firms.
No. Glenn, I have 10 children I need to put through school. I don't have time to market it, remortgage my house.
10?
Yeah.
Yes.
We have a friend that has 10, and we went over for dinner one night, and that was an interesting experience.
I'm sure it was.
It's a
that
large
was
quantity
polite.
of food you have to put on the table every night.
Yes. It is. It's Thanksgiving every night at our house.
Does everybody have cowboy hats and cowboy boots now? Do all the kids?
Almost. Actually,
Yeah.
in fact, my husband just came back from America, and he's like, "Look what I bought," and I was like, "What are those?" Cowboy boots. I'm like, "You bought them somewhere else?" Yeah. That's
so
okay.
you are single-handedly building the Western community in Edinburgh.
I wouldn't say single-handedly. We have a lot of support, but yeah, we're spearheading it.
Yeah, with just your kids, you're single-handedly doing it.
We're just taking over. They're like mobbing the
that's
city.
right.
It's great. It's great.
So if I wanted to ask this, is it cowboy hats, jeans, shirts? What's the number 1, 2, 3 for you guys?
Do you want me got it now? Do you want me to take it?
So definitely cowboy hats, shirts, and wild rags. That is it. Jeans are a lot more readily available than any other product for us.
Right.
Yeah.
And that, yeah.
Belts too. Belts and belt buckles are the other big one coming up. And we do get quite a lot of asks about chaps. That's the next thing that we have to kind of sort out, but that'll be for a later date.
Yeah. And that's a whole, there's so
That's a whole other program.
Yeah,
that's a whole other program.
There's a lot there. There's a lot of there when you get into that.
Which was interesting. We actually got a lot out of your own podcast on boots. The gentleman who was talking about boots the last time and we got a lot out of his podcast. That was very helpful for us.
From when I think I've gone to almost 40 of these WESA and ADA shows, and years and years ago, you would see maybe 4 or 5 boot people, and now you went and there's 30 of them there.
Minimum,
it's just incredible. There's 1,000 boots. Yeah. It's hard to decide what SKUs as a retailer you're going to put in there and what brands and what colors and what just all of it. It's tough.
How we decided was we trotted along to one of the very large stores that sold 50, 60 brands of boots, and we stood there for 2 hours while I made Jessica try every single pair on that we could find in her size.
It was a sight to be seen. Yes.
I love that.
But we learned so much, but we learned there's a slightly different need in the UK for what they need out of a boot is a little bit different. But no, that was how we narrowed down what we really liked in a boot was by trying on probably 150 pairs in a store.
Yeah. And I think the environment over here lends itself to where we couldn't choose some boots right away. We were dealing with wet climate. We are dealing with mud. We are not dealing with dry dirt. We're
Right.
dealing with mud 80% of the time.
That's true.
So that's something we have to consider with all of our products. Leather is great, but like, what about the bottoms? What about the bottom of my boots? How are we taking care of those? Are they going to withstand the wetness? So that's something that was easy to deal with because we narrowed down who we could go with and who we couldn't.
Yeah. How slippery are they for just simple basic stuff? Yeah. You're right.
Yeah.
And your mud is slippery. I was there when it rained. Yeah.
Which pick a day, Glenn. Pick a day.
We got lucky most of the time we were there, but
pick an hour, really. Pick an hour. It was hailing today at one point, and then there was sun, so it's fine.
I got to tell you, Edinburgh was one of our favorite cities we've ever been to. Now, we were there at a magical time during festival, and we got to see the tattoo and do all of that. So, I mean, it was really cool time we were there.
Sure.
But, I love that city. And we have a lot of listeners over there, too, all English. That's why I asked that question, because I know they're all English riders. And they all go do that riding as groups out in the countryside thing. I forget what it's called.
Like the hunt.
Yeah, it's kind of like a hunt, but they have a different name for it. It's kind of like a community ride, and I cannot remember the name of it. Yeah.
I don't know the name, but they do one really famous one in Edinburgh where they cap it the amount, and everyone just like storms down the Royal Mile.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty
we
pretty
weren't
incredible.
There for that, but that would have been fun to be there for. I think that would have been cool. Well, this has been fun. Where can people find you guys?
So we're at badcowgirlco.com on the web. The landing page is there, and you can sign up so you can find out when we launch officially online, and then also on Instagram and Facebook under the same handle, Bad Cowgirl Co.
And
pretty easy.
If some of our listeners are over there and they want to catch you at a show, where do they find your show list that you're going to be sending?
Instagram, we list everything there, and Facebook. Yeah, and also again, send a message. We'll get back to you. We don't have anything else going on.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's a message. At WESA, if you see us, we are normally carrying bags of shortbread or whiskey or English chocolate. So
I was in a kilt.
How did I miss you?
I was in a kilt this year, a full kilt. Yeah, it's great.
Well, hang on, guys. I need you guys to hang on till after I end the feed so that it saves. So if you could please do that, that'd be great. Thank you for joining us for WESA's Retail Roundup. If you missed part of this, it'll be available on the WESA podcast at Wisdom by WESA on your podcast player. Also, these guys did an episode of that last year. Do you know when it was? Was it last year? Would have been last year.
I think the end of last year.
Yeah, it would have had to been the end of last year. So you'll find that on your podcast player. Also, there's a WESA Trade Show YouTube channel and the WESA website at wesatradeshow.com. There's also a Facebook page for the WESA Retail Roundup. The next roundup will be on the 17th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Be sure to join us. You can find me at horsesinthemorning.com or at the Horse Radio Network. I host Horses in the Morning pretty much 5 days a week, so you can find me over there. WESATradeshow.com. Thanks, everybody. See you next week.
Thank you.
Bye.